Hey man, I noticed you don't have one of my t-shirts on.
Where do I get one of those t-shirts?
Just click down below one of my videos. The link's right down there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Different colors?
Yeah, different colors. Yeah, fits all people, even tall people. Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to another Natural Gallant bodybuilding vlog. And today I'm going to be training some shoulders and some triceps and some stiff-legged deadlifts. And really, to correct that, it's not really stiff-legged deadlifts, it's Romanian deadlifts. Okay, so it's kind of like a hybrid between a powerlifting deadlift and a stiff-legged deadlift. I've never really believed in doing stiff-legged deadlifts because, you know, straightening the knees while you're bending over, and it's just a recipe for disaster, especially for a hamstring tear or something. So I always keep my knees slightly bent. So here I am with the shoulder lateral raises, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm just raising my arms just right out to the sides, just like a typical lateral raise. Now, because of the way my elbows are bent, it looks like my pinky is facing the ceiling. And this is just the way I'm built. You know, I got some messed up looking elbows and all this kind of stuff. So this is just the way I'm built. So I really want to encourage you to keep your palms parallel to the floor when you're doing a lateral raise, okay? Not to bring the pinkies up, unless of course that feels right to you, because you don't want to jam the shoulder joint. So if your shoulder joint feels like it's jamming, definitely do not do it that way. Just like if you do upright rows, if you're internally rotating the arms and you're feeling like your shoulder is jamming, you might not be built to do the upright row that way, okay? So that will cause a lot of bursitis or problems in your shoulders. So you have to make sure that you cater the movements that I'm doing for your specific body type, okay? Sometimes the things that I do might look messed up or different compared to the way you're gonna do it, but this is what I'm really encouraging on this channel. I'm not saying to do things my way, I'm saying do it your way and keep on finding out what that is. And if you are jamming the joints or noticing that you're getting joint pain or grinding and all this kind of stuff, that's a sure sign that you're doing it wrong for your body type, okay? So that joint grinding, not a good thing. If it's like, you know, like you're getting all this kind of rusty hinge type sounds and stuff, that's not good, you know, crackling and popping and snapping. Sometimes that stuff happens naturally. There is a certain amount of that, but if you're noticing that there's pain and like a grinding, please don't do it. Just adjust your technique, change it around, find the groove that feels right to you, that feels efficient. That's really the main thing. You want to find it an efficient groove, an efficient way of training. Hey Glenn?
Yes.
This guy put me on Snapchat. I know Jason Collette. That guy's the coolest guy ever.
No, on Snapchat.
So what I started with was about 3 sets of lateral raises, and of course I'm talking again because that just never stops, you know, especially when I'm having my lazy nights in the gym. Sometimes when you're having a lazy night, you gotta talk, right? And then I went over to the pec machine and did some rear delts on there. And there is a misconception around this machine, okay? Because some of the people out there are saying, no, you gotta keep your elbows up in order to hit the rear delt and everything. And again, you know, I don't know why some of these people just don't listen to what I'm saying. You have to find what works for you, and you have to find something that works with your dimensions. And I noticed sometimes dropping the elbow just a little bit actually helps bring in the external rotator cuff and actually helps hit my delt even more. I get a more intense burn and a wicked pump, and my shoulders aren't my weak link, so I would say it actually worked pretty good for developing them. I find when I keep my elbows up too high, it just jams my shoulders and grinds them up a bit when I come forward. It doesn't actually seem to work. Not for the rear delt anyway. I start to hit more of my upper trap in some way. Okay, so again, you have to find the groove that works for you.
Hey guys, in the background talking.
He's in the background, he talks to me the whole time. Yeah, it never stops. Move your elbows up, move them down, find what feels right, and that is the right groove for you, okay? So there's no real template that says this is the only way. You have to find the way that your body works, and it's kind of like a man melding with machine, you know, some sort of cyborgian type of thing. And I just love how focused I am because I'm out of focus in this shot. Contrary to popular belief, dropping the elbows in some cases can help you activate the rear delt more. Keeping the elbow up and doing it like this isn't necessarily a better rear delt movement. Well, there you have it. You know, the guy on the screen said it. So if the guy on the screen said it, that means it must be true, right? It must be true, okay? So anyway, from there, I went over to triceps, and I went to my favorite triceps exercise right now. And I'm really doing a lot of overhead tricep work on an incline right now, a really shallow incline. It's probably only 20 degrees, 30 degrees. I just actually put the bench down as low down as I can. And it seems to be the perfect groove for me to keep that tension on my long head of my tricep, okay? But I'm also doing a lot of press downs in various different positions to hit different heads of the tricep. So again, it's always about finding a way or an angle in order to make the muscle the weak link in the exercise rather than the stability of the joint or lack thereof, okay? And because of the, the shoulder injuries that I have from hockey, there's a little bit of instability, and because the tricep and the bicep do help stabilize the shoulder, I have had to find the perfect groove in order to actually reestablish this connection again, to rehabilitate that area, right? And it's starting to really come, and a couple guys have noticed actually that my tricep development's coming up again, and that my bicep development's starting to come up, and my rear delt development's starting to come up. Well, this is based on a combination of changing my diet around, and you'll see that my body's actually changing, because this footage is actually from a few weeks ago. And my body's actually changing quite fast because I've increased my protein, lowered my carbs a little bit to make sure that I replaced it with protein, and I've increased my fats through natural sources like nuts and seeds. You'll notice that my body will change in this next little while. I'll get leaner and bigger because there's going to be more protein feeding the system, and I have not committed to the diet to the level that I'm committing to it right now. And you're going to see how anabolic a diet can be. If you're not feeding the body what it needs in order to recover, it really does make a big difference. So there's a combination between exercise science and nutrition, and when you really meet those two things together, it makes a big difference. And that's what I talked about as far as natural bodybuilders having to train differently than, say, the guys that are unnatural. You have to really use your entire life as your stimulus to gain muscle. If you just look to just your training or just your diet, it's not going to work. You need to make sure your sleep's there, you need to make sure your diet's there, you need to make sure that your training is also there. And when all of these things hit this perfect sweet spot, then you notice that there's growth or fat loss depending on what you're working on at the time. So here I am just doing the tricep press down. Now I step back from the machine sometimes. Why would I do that? Well, the reason why is because I want to hit a different head of the tricep. Now when I bend over like this, now I'm stretching the long head of the tricep, and I'm keeping tension on the long head when I step back, because the long head of the tricep actually helps keep the arm back when the tension is moving away from the body. So you see, so the tension from that rope wants to pull my arm away, and the triceps actually keeping it from moving forward, So that's what keeps my arm from popping up, along with, of course, a little bit of lat and, teres major, and also, some of the rear delt as well. Now, the reason why I don't lock the left arm out is because I actually broke this elbow when I was like 10, and it didn't heal right. I remember punching a soccer ball, and it actually moved my elbow joint back. So it can actually hyperextend, so nobody can arm bar me. Okay, so just so you know, if you ever want to beat me up, you're not going to be able to arm bar my left arm, because I can actually hyperextend it, and there's no problem. So, but at the same time, it does change a little bit the way my arm moves a little bit. So from here, I went over to some Romanian deadlifts, and this is one exercise that a couple of you have been waiting for me to do or to show you, and this is something I've been including in my training a lot more in this last few months because I want to bring my hamstrings up again. And it is a great movement. I find it's one of the best movements, and you'll notice that when I'm doing this movement, the amount that I bend over at the waist, I keep the back arched, okay? It's not neutral. I mean, everybody's saying this neutral thing on the internet. You do slightly arch your back. The reason why is because the facet joints actually sit on top of each other and create a solid column, okay? When you have a back in a neutral position, the facet joints aren't really sitting on top of each other, and you can still get a little bit of instability, which leads to disc problem, okay? So this is a big kind of misconception on the internet. You get all these people saying, oh, squeeze your bum because, you want to make sure your back's in a neutral position. No, especially when the weight is threatening to round your back, you want to make sure it is in a slightly arched position. Not a lot, but a slightly arched position for sure. So you notice I keep my knees bent, and I bend over right at the waist. It's like there's a hinge right at the hip bone. And as I bend over, what I'm doing is I'm just stretching those hamstrings out, and I'm making sure my knees stay bent because I want to keep the tension on the belly of the hamstring. You definitely do not want to feel this behind the knees, and you definitely do not want to be doing this really fast. You want to make sure you do several warm-up sets, like 3 or 4 warm-up sets, and then slowly bend over at the waist and come back up, and you don't have to hit the floor. Now, if you notice, because I have such short-ass arms, I'm bending over at the waist as much as Ronnie Coleman or a lot of guys out there that I've seen deadlift, and when they bend over this much at the waist, they're actually touching the floor. They're doing a full powerlifting deadlift. And so this is really my point. When you actually train for your own body type, you're still getting the same joint angles and the same stress in the muscle. It's just that you're not overdoing it. I hope this helps you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks a lot for watching, and take care for now.